Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second lecture on the legislative branch. If you look at the screen, this one is actually a combined lecture originally with sections 5.2 and 5.3 together, covering the House of Representatives and the Senate. But just to make it easier for you guys to view and make the videos a little bit shorter, I will actually split it into their own sections. So we'll stop this video at the end of the one on the House, and I'll start one. Your third video will be on the Senate. So let's get started and talk about our House of Representatives a little bit more specifically. So if you look at the picture here, this is the actual House of Representatives. This is during a State of the Union address a few years ago. I believe it was during Obama's second presidency, so it is a little bit dated, the picture. In terms of how the House of Representatives works and the rules that kind of go on or what are in place. So first off, you have to have rules within any system because there's always going to be people that are going to disagree, and it's politics and it's our government. So of course there's going to be division and debate. So the rules have been developed to kind of help make sure that actually is a little bit restricted and things still get done. Now, past rulings, whether it's in our Congress or in law or whatever, are what present guidelines for how things actually work within the House. So the whole idea here is that we can get things moving more quickly because the amount of work and the things that they have to deal with is just astronomical in this day and age of what they see and what crosses their desks and what crosses the floor. So how this works is there's power in both instances of our Congress in the House and in the Senate, and it resides within the leaders that are actually there. Now, most of the work gets done with the committees that are set up, and the committees could deal with any type of topic, and we'll talk about some examples of those moving forward. And then there's a lot more smaller groups that kind of can develop within those committees, like subcommittees and so forth, to allow work to get done. And the real reason is just so that you can actually send bills where they need to go or be on specialized committees. So, for example, you might want an education bill to go with an educational committee. And the next part is issues are specialized towards the constituents of the representative. So typically when you have a representative member, they're going to be on committees or focus on laws and bills that are representative of who they're representing. So you're not necessarily going to have a representative that will be dealing with a law that deals with something that's outside of, like a regional problem when they're not within that region. And again, party affiliation is set up accordingly. On the right-hand side are the Republicans, and then on the left-hand side are the Democrats. Now, House leaders, they do a lot, and there's a number of them. They coordinate work. That's a big job they have. But the other purposes, as you can see on the screen, is they organize and unify their party as much as possible. They try to schedule work as much as possible, or delegate that out to their staff or other junior members of the House of Representatives so that they can work things through much more easily. They make sure members show up to vote. That's a big job because a lot of the times, when you're voting on something, you want everybody there. You want to make sure that they're not abstaining from that vote. It makes it easier for them to pass what they want to. They distribute and collect information or use their staff to do so. Again, that's very important to making sure that people understand the voting or what they're voting for. And then they communicate with the president as much as possible or when they need to. And then they try to influence support and party policies. So if they're a Democrat, they're going to try to say, hey, look, these are policies of our party. If they're Republican, same thing. Now, these pictures are a little bit dated in a way in terms of what you see. John Boehner is on the right. He was actually going to be superseded by Ryan from Wisconsin. And then this is Nancy Pelosi a few years ago when she was actually the Speaker of the House or at the time Obama was president, but she has since come back since the Democrats have regained control, and she is now currently, again, the Speaker of the House. Now, the job of the Speaker of the House is they're the presiding officer of the House of Representatives. They are the top person in the House of Representatives. Now, typically, how they're chosen is when the election takes place, or every 2 years the elections take place. Afterwards, the majority party will have a closed meeting or a caucus, and the majority party will actually choose who they want to be their speaker for the House of Representatives. They'll do this each session. Now, typically, their job is they decide what the proceedings on the floor of the House of Representatives, who's going to go first, and so forth. They appoint committee members, both across both parties, or have a say in it, and they schedule bills. And again, this goes with the proceedings. They are second in line for the presidency, which means that if you have the vice president is next in line for the presidency, then it's the Speaker of the House. And they use their powers of persuasion as well as formal powers that are laid out for them in guidelines to influence scheduling, influence passage of bills and policies and so forth. Now, the floor leaders, they are people that help either the majority party or the minority party to get things done. These leaders, not the majority leaders, the floor leaders, help these things get done. Now, the majority leader is the Speaker of the House's top assistant. They're like the second in charge. They plan the legislative platform for the party, and they help steer bills through the House, making sure that they can actually get them out accordingly, see where people are voting, and kind of taking the temperature of what's going to go on, as well as making sure the vote happens. They're elected by the majority party, kind of the same way as you saw the Speaker of the House. Whips, they are actually existent across both either the majority party or the minority party, and they just act as assistant leaders for the majority and minority leaders that are in place. They watch for voting intentions, they try to persuade, they draft bills their own, they do all different sorts of things. And then the minority party does a lot of the same things. Their structure is the exact same as the majority party. The only difference is since they don't control the leadership, they can't schedule their House work. They have to be on the side of the majority leader or talk to them or the Speaker of the House to get their work scheduled. And it'd be up to debate in terms of where they are and what policies and what things are getting done. Here you can actually see how the breakdown is. Now, in this case, we actually see this is an example where the Republican Party is in control of the House of Representatives. So what I just talked about in terms of the leadership and the floor leaders is you can see it there. You have your Speaker, which would, even though it's green, here would be a Republican. Your majority leader with the whip, and then you have your conference committees and so forth that are part of the Republican Party, and then the opposite with the Democrats, and then you work together with the green system, the committee system, where you would actually pool the representatives together and so forth. Now, how does lawmaking work? Plain and simple, they're in session Monday through Fridays. It's a standard work week. Most of their work is done on Tuesdays and Thursdays, primarily because Mondays they're returning and scheduling and figuring things out in the offices. Friday they're doing the same thing, but maybe leaving to go home or to some other kind of event. And then Wednesday's kind of a catch-up to review what was done on Tuesday, prepare for Thursday, generally in kind of a quick overview of what they do. Now, all laws that are passed start as bills. How they're scheduled is they're simply dropped into this hopper that you see here. Then they're sent to the appropriate committee that they're supposed to go to, whether it's whatever, if it's spending or military, whatever. Whatever committee that it is, it goes to. They discuss and review those bills at those committees. They determine whether or not it should actually be voted on, and then so forth. If it does pass, it will go and be put on the calendar and be put up for consideration. And the House has many calendars. Here's just a few. You have the Union calendar, which deals with money. House, which deals with any other public funding bills. Private calendars, which deal with any places or individuals. You have the consent calendar, which is things that deal with unanimous consent. Pretty straightforward stuff. And then you have the discharge, which is calendar where they talk about petitions to discharge, which are typically ones that have been in the books for so long they're going to try to get rid of them. Okay, the Rules Committee is perhaps the most important committee there is within the House of Representatives because, as you can see in green letters there, they're the traffic officer of our House of Representatives. They move bills, they stop them, they hold them up, they delay them. They pretty much make sure, okay, this is how things are going to operate. This is what we're going to discuss. We're going to put that on hold. Okay, this isn't working. This is done. And they're the most powerful because of this ability. Now, in terms of how things function, bills can reach the floor by special order, where chairmen ask for bills to be moved up in the order, and then they vote on that approval. The Rules Committee can issue a time limit, if need be, on discussing things so that they can help move things through court. In some cases, trying to hold things up if it's something that's being pushed by an opposite party. And then ultimately, they try to settle disputes within or between House committees as well as the parties themselves, if need be. Now, if there comes a time where something needs to be done, and you don't have everybody in session, whether because of some emergency or they're just not there or whatever, different specific time of year, you need to have a quorum in the House of Representatives. And all that is a minimum number of members to take an official action to move things on. And this is set up by the Rules Committee. In a regular session, you need 218 members to have a quorum, which is just over half. You have 435 members of the House of Representatives, 218, that's just over half. And then if there's another instance where you just kind of want to move the process along, but you're not getting it to be voted on to pass it, you have what's called a committee of the whole, where you need 100 members to actually make a ruling upon it. All right, and like I said, we're going to split this up. This is the end of the video on the House of Representatives. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it interesting. And as always, I'll see you guys next time, where we'll talk about the Senate. Have a great day.